Hi guys, my name is Mika and I'm a writer. I just finished putting together my first children's book to self-publish, and the book ended up far exceeding my expectations. I'm really happy with it. Here is a proof copy of the softcover version from KDP, and KDP stands for Kindle Direct Publishing, which is owned by Amazon. And I'll tell you more about this proof later, but I love the quality. So I decided to release 3 formats of this book: ebook, softcover, and hardcover. In this video, I'm going to share with you the process step by step that it took for me to create and self-publish this book. I did months of research to figure out the process that worked the best for me, so I hope that this video will provide you with great information, clear action steps to take, will save you time, and give you knowledge and insight into the process. This video is the second half of the entire process and is part 2. If you haven't already seen it, part 1 will be linked below. And part 1 covered everything from writing the book, to creating detailed scenes, to getting samples from potential illustrators. The first video left off where I received an illustration sample from 2 different illustrators based on a scene in the book. In this video, we'll start off by deciding between 2 incredibly talented illustrators to illustrate this book. Anyways, let's get into it and start off at step 17, which is to decide on an illustrator based on the sample illustrations. So here are the illustration samples, and this is what happened prior to receiving them. I had narrowed it down from almost 40 applicants to the 2 illustrators that I thought were the best fit. I sent them both my story as well as a detailed scene, which was page 2 of my book. The scene read this: "It is a nice, happy, bright summer day at the beach. In the background, there are children in colorful bathing suits playing on the beach and in the ocean. There is one little girl watching/looking out at the ocean. Parentheses, she has brown hair and is wearing a red bathing suit. She wants to go in the water, but is just watching." The text in the scene will say, "Every day she played on the beach, but wanted to go play in the water too. She watched as the children went in." And then I also put parentheses, and it says, "On my storyboard, I put the little girl sitting on a blue towel with a sandcastle next to her, looking out at the ocean, but that is optional." So Natalia sent me her illustration, and the moment I saw it, I just fell in love with it. I just knew right there that she was the illustrator for this book, because it actually made me tear up to look at it. I had read somewhere during all the course of my research that when you see your story coming to life, it can be an emotional process, and I didn't know what that meant until I saw her sample drawing. So immediately I reached out to the other illustrator, Lianne, and I told her, "I hope that you haven't started on the sample illustration yet, because I received the other sample illustration and I just fell in love with it immediately." And Lianne responded back right away that she had actually just finished the sample illustration and would give it to me as a gift, and that she hoped to work together sometime in the future. She was so gracious and lovely about it, and both of them were just so incredibly talented. I love how they took that one detailed scene and then just made 2 magical sample illustrations from them. But there was just something instantaneously perfect about Natalia's sample illustration that I just knew right away, no questions asked, it's the one. Okay, so step 18 is to send a contract and hire your illustrator. I sent Natalia the contract reiterating what I had said in the job posting, which is just a good extra measure to protect both the author and the illustrator, so everyone's on the same page. I had already signed my portion, and it took about 1 day for her to review it and then send it back to me. So number 19 is to send your detailed scenes into the illustrator so that they can begin their work. So now I'm a fan of creating detailed scenes with text. I think that by using text to describe a scene, it gives the illustrator creative freedom, and they can produce their work based on their perception of your words. Then when you get the illustration back, they might have thought of some different perspective or a different way of drawing your scene that exceeds your expectations. And by doing that, you might come out with an illustration that you absolutely adore that you would have never even thought of. Which leads us right into number 20, which is illustrations and revisions. So I had sent my detailed scenes to Natalia, and then Natalia sent me back sketches based on those scenes. Here they are. They were so cute. It was so fun to receive the sketches and to look through them. They were just so adorable, and I was really, really happy. There were a few revisions in my mind, so I carefully looked through her sketches and I wrote the revision requests in a PDF and I sent them to her. She made all the revisions, and what came back was awesome and so on point, and I loved them. So this is how Natalia and I worked. We reviewed the sketches and made the revisions, and then she made the full page illustrations. It was all remote, and we went back and forth with revisions and ideas and talked a little bit in between. It was really a pleasure working with her. Then after those sketches, every day or every few days, she would send me her illustrations as she finished them. Sometimes it was 1, sometimes it was 2, sometimes it was 3 at a time. And every time a message from her would come through, I would get so excited, and I would always grab a cup of coffee or a tea and sit down with the honor of opening up the next little bit. It was really awesome to see the book progressing in that way. If I had any revision requests, I would send her notes on each illustration as they came through so that she had them immediately. The entire process working together took about a month and a half. At the final point before finishing everything, I printed out all the illustrations because I knew it was going to be in print format, and I wanted something tangible to double check, see the flow, and this would actually come in really handy for me to see where to put the text later, and also to see about page order later, which we'll get to. Meaning like copyright page, title page, dedication page, and what order to put it in. So there was one spread in the middle of the book which highlighted the lesson of the book. So printing it out, I was able to see how the pages flowed together. Here's the one spread that was in the book. My friend Lianne was making fun of me because she's just like, you're so old school. Look, you printed it out and then even put this little thing on it to clip it all together. So now, we're going to go into number 21, which is add the font to your images. So I actually really struggled with this part, but next time I know it will be much easier. I actually learned a ton here. This thing that I had printed out was actually our final version of the ebook. The illustrations are so adorable, but something about it, I couldn't place my finger on it. Something just wasn't quite flowing for me. And then my friend Thomas stepped in, and he's in the industry and he knows so much about animations and illustrations. And he said, hey, your font's too small. Children's books should be large and easy to read. The font needs to have a balance with the illustrations so that they go hand in hand and complement each other. He also said that the title needs to be big, and that when the book is shown sometimes as a thumbnail, it's amongst all these other thumbnails, and you want to have the title be eye-catching and readable. So this was our initial copy, and then we made it much bigger on the final copy. So then a few days later, my friend Guillermo tells me adding font is so easy. It only takes about an hour to do all that. So he says, just go ahead and do it yourself instead of going back and forth with revisions. So he told me it would take about an hour, which I'm actually really glad that he said that because it took me a week straight. However, had Guillermo not said that, I don't know if I would have actually attempted it and learned what I did. I may not have started. It took me a week straight because I can tend to be a little bit of a perfectionist. I also made a few trips to the bookstore to see what books I was drawn to and what the font was like with those books. And then also it was my first time using Canva. During this time, I also ended up signing up for Canva Pro, which has been so useful to me. And also designing the bookmarks that I'll tell you about later for promotional purposes. For designing the softcover, which was this one I put together according to the template in Canva. And it's even come in handy now for the YouTube channel because all my thumbnails I create in Canva. Yeah, I use Canva for so much stuff now. So number 22 is buy ISBNs and decide on an imprint. So if you're based in the United States, then you want to use myidentifiers.com, which is run by Balkers. Keep in mind that you need a separate ISBN for each format. So if you have the same book, but you have an ebook, a softcover, a hardcover, and an audiobook, each one needs a different ISBN. And here, let's go in and take a look at so you can buy one ISBN for $125 or 10 ISBNs for $295. So you can buy, say, like 10 ISBNs, but you don't have to use them all at once. You could use them as you need them. So this book, for instance, took up 3 ISBNs because I did ebook, softcover, and hardcover. Now also, you technically don't have to buy an ISBN. You do have the option to use one that, for instance, KDP or Ingram Sparks will give you. But if you use their ISBN and you also publish on another platform, you might end up with duplicate book listing pages that might confuse readers in the future. So for instance, if you have an ISBN provided by KDP and then you publish your ebook, and then you also publish your ebook with Ingram Spark and it's with their ISBN, you'll have 2 duplicate listings of 2 different ISBN numbers in the overall catalog. So people might wonder, is it the same book or is it a different book? But in fact, it's the same book, it just has 2 different ISBNs. So if you just buy your own, then you don't have to worry about that. You can just put one ISBN for all the soft covers, one ISBN for all the hard covers, and one ISBN for all the ebooks, despite if you're publishing on 1 or 5 platforms. So if you plan on publishing on multiple platforms, you're better off probably just purchasing your own ISBN, and then you can just register it on each platform. There's also the option to choose an imprint. Now for an imprint, basically you could choose a name that represents your brand. And so when it says publisher, it would show the imprint name. You could choose something like something something press or something something publishers. But instead of putting your name as the publisher, you can put something else, like an entity that you've created. Then you have to go file a DBA, I believe. And for this book, I did not choose an imprint. I might do it for my series coming out in the summer, but for now, I was just really happy to put it under my name just for this book. I did put a lot of thought and research into it, and for now, I'm just going to keep my name. So when it pops up, it's not going to look like a publishing house. It'll just say Mika Kuntz, which is my name. And now we're on to step 23, which is create your other pages. So this includes the copyright page, the dedication page, and then maybe if you want a note to parents, a note to the child, or any other activity worksheets. I actually created a note to the parents at the end, and then I decided to take it out. So the only non-illustration pages I was left with were the about the author and about the illustrator page, and then also the dedication page and the copyright page. Okay, and number 24 is to decide the order of your pages. So like for example, do you want to put a blank page in the front? And I don't know if I was just not looking in the right place, but it was hard for me for some reason to figure out, does the KDP softcover have a page here inserted for you? And I think the Ingram Spark one does for the hardcover. So the answer to that question is the KDP softcover does not insert a page here for you, but you could put a blank page if you wanted to. But in the back, there are 2 blank pages. So the order that I decided to put mine is the title page, the copyright page, and then the dedication page. And then the story starts. And then after the story, at the very end, there's a page that's about the author and about the illustrator. And that is it. I did actually go to the bookstore and then I looked through a bunch of the children's books, and I saw a lot of people on their copyright page had the dedication right above the copyright, so it was just all on one page. And I would have done that, but I have a spread right in the middle, which is here. It's my one spread of the book, and had I not done a separate dedication and copyright page, this spread would have gotten messed up and the pages wouldn't have faced each other. Although there were other ways around it, but I just decided to do dedication and copyright separately and facing each other. So when you're setting up your page order, keep in mind that if you have a spread in your book, the pages need to face each other, and so just make sure that you don't want to be disappointed when you get your proof that it's like, oh no, one page is on one side and then you have to flip it to get to the other side of the spread. And apparently that is a mistake that happens, so be careful with it. And this seems so simple now, but this actually took me a lot of time to get to such a simple state. Maybe because it's my first book, but the next books I'll know exactly what to do, but yeah, it did take quite a bit of research just to arrive at this. Step number 25 is fresh eyes and beta readers. So at this stage, I had a few trusted people look at it again. After all the final fonts were put on, before the finalization, have other eyes look at it for you. When I did this, somebody caught a minor grammatical error. Others gave me their opinion on spacing, which was really valuable because after I had put on all the fonts, I had seen it so much that I wasn't sure. So to get a second or third opinion, it was really great. Step number 26 is to decide which platform to use and do your research. There's quite a few self-publishing platforms out there. I chose KDP for my ebook and my softcover, and Ingram Spark for my hardcover. So because I chose KDP and Ingram Spark, now I know the most about them because I went further with in-depth research, so I can tell you a couple things. That KDP and Ingram Spark, they have different distribution channels. You can use them both in conjunction with each other as long as you do not select the expanded distribution service on Amazon. You also want to upload to KDP first and then to Ingram Spark. And then on Ingram Spark, you just want to make sure not to click the Amazon option. Royalties are better that way if you do it this way because it cuts out the middleman. Eventually, if I put my ebook on any other platforms, I'll use Smashwords or Draft to Digital because they don't have processing fees like Ingram Spark does. And number 27 is researching pricing and royalties. So in my opinion, this kind of goes hand in hand with deciding which platform to use. But first you want to research what other comparable books are selling for, and you also want to take into account your cost. And in the beginning, I thought that this was so simple because I went to the bookstore and then I saw that most of the hardcovers were priced for about $17.99. But it turns out that traditionally published books often print in bulk and overseas, so they can afford lower costs. So when I took the figure $17.99 and then I typed it into Ingram Spark, I went negative on profits. And taxes are also a factor. So once you know the cost of your book on the platform that you're going to use, then you want to take that into account before attempting to price the book. So know your costs first and then also see what the comparables are of books that are actually selling, not the books that are priced really high and not selling or priced really low. I don't know. You want to make sure that whatever price that you're researching that are comparables that are books that are actually selling. So when deciding on price, think of the investment that you've put in the book. The books do cost money to create. You have the ISBN cost, the Illustrator, the editor, any subscriptions like Canva Pro, the sheer amount of energy and hours and time that you're putting into creating the book. The reoccurring advice that I keep hearing from all kinds of different authors is don't forget to pay yourself. Definitely try to make back what you invested. If this is your job, you can generally only keep producing more books if you get paid. So anyways, you want to research royalties between platforms. So for example, KDP has 35% royalty or 70% royalty. To qualify for the 70% royalty, then you have to price your book between $2.99 and $9.99. So taking an ebook, for example, it would be the price that you sell the ebook for minus the delivery fees, and then you get a 70% royalty on that if you price it between $2.99 and $9.99. So sometimes you might benefit on a 35% royalty versus 70% royalty depending on what is the value of your book and the volume that you want to sell. So again, at the very least, you want to make the cost of your book back, so be strategic in your pricing. Number 28 is to make any final revisions and to finalize the final format. So we ended up doing 3 final ebook draft revisions. One example is like this one. We made the title much bigger in the end. And then we put the names, instead of under the title in black, we put it along the bottom in white font. And then, the back cover, we changed it from this to filled in all the way. And then the font that I had mentioned in the beginning. So there's the font in the initial first ebook draft. And then for that same page, there's the font. So you want to get your final PDF version or whichever other format that you need for your platform. Natalia sent me a PDF which worked perfectly for Ingram Spark, and then I got stuck for a couple days because for KDP I needed another format for the ebook. So it took me several days. I could not figure out how to get it converted until I found the Kindle Kids Book Creator, which basically you just drop the PDF into there and then it turns it into a Mobi file for you. And it was just so easy. Once I found that software and installed it onto my laptop, it literally took maybe like 10 minutes to figure it out. So number 29 is to upload and process your books. So once you decide which platforms that you want to self-publish with, you want to create your accounts and then enter in all your information and then also your tax information so that they can pay you. Then there's some nuances on their own. Just a couple that I came across where I got really worried about margins and bleed. So this had a simple solution, but basically you just want to click yes to the bleed option if you want your illustration to run all the way to the edge of your page. Then before you hit publish, you also want to fill out your ISBN information on My Identifiers if you have bought your own, and then make sure to put that ISBN into the KDP platform. And when you get to this point, you can order your proof copy and it'll say not for resale on the front and back cover. And I think this is just the coolest thing to keep for memories. But, sorry, because of the camera angle, I'm going to show you the book backwards. Here's my proof. And a proof is really to double check to make sure that everything's correct. And so I did, and now I will keep this probably forever. So congratulations in advance if you are at this step. Okay, and number 30 is marketing. So I put this last, but it should actually be a consideration from before you even launch your book. So throughout the whole process, you kind of want to be thinking of marketing, because they say you could write the book and you can produce the book, but it does not sell itself. There's so many books out there that you should probably put some elbow grease in to help it sell. So marketing is an entire video in itself, which I might make one on it. Let me know in the comments if that's something that you'd like to see. And here is a list overview of what I found to be the most important in my marketing plan. It begins with the basics. So I think that for me anyways, I often associated marketing with what happens after you publish the book, but the slightly less romanticized but very important aspect of marketing starts with the basics. This is where you get your title and cover appealing to an audience, then put a lot of thought and care into writing your blurb. And the blurb, by the way, is the short description of your book. The blurb gives you an opportunity to both sell and describe your book at the same time. And in KDP, for example, you have the option to include some keywords and some categories, and they're limited. So it's important to choose the optimal keywords and categories so that the people who are looking for a book like yours can find it in the sea of other books. You'll also want to make sure that your author bios are filled out in different platforms so that people can look you up and then learn about what you've written. So I made some really cute bookmarks that I designed in Canva Pro. Here's the front. There's the back. My city is known for surfing and it's also a coastal city, so I'm hoping that some of the local restaurants and some of the local shops where I know some of the people, they'll let me put bookmarks on their counters, and maybe in the boutique shops. For selling books, it's important to try to get reviews, so that's something to focus on. You want probably at least 10 reviews if possible. I'm also trying KDP Select, and I'll report back to you in another video with my experience and results. By choosing KDP Select, my book basically goes into the Kindle Unlimited program, and I also can't put my ebook on any other platform for 90 days, although you can still sell other formats of your book elsewhere, like print books. Anyways, after the 90 days is up, I can take my ebook out or keep it in the program. I wanted to try it as an experiment, so I'll get back to you in a later video and tell you how it went. And the last part is to utilize the power of social media. I learned so much during the creation of this book. There is that learning curve, and my next book will be simpler because now I know these steps to arrive at a book that is beautiful and that I'm proud of. I hope that these steps are helpful, entertaining, and/or informative for you too. And that was my process to arrive at a book that I'm just so happy with. Please hit the like button if you enjoyed this video, and please subscribe if you'd like to see more content like this on self-publishing, and also content about your home and how to make it a sanctuary. I have a book series coming out this summer about how to have good vibes in your home, and I will share the content with you here on this channel. The books will be filled with decluttering and organizing advice, cleaning hacks, plant care, which plants to put in your home, among other core components to make your home feel amazing. And if you want a more in-depth video about any of the steps that we went over, please let me know in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching, and see you next time.